Hey everyone, welcome back to Soul Stirring Story. Today, we're diving into an incredible journey about a teacher who stood up for a struggling kid and paid a heavy price until a new principal turned her world around. Picture this, a small Kentucky town where the wind howls through bare trees outside Jefferson Elementary. Inside, a young teacher named Sarah, just 26, is in a tense standoff with her principal, Mr. Blake. A fourth grader named Jack keeps showing up to school hungry, with holes in his shoes, and no one to guide him through the doors. Sarah's voice is steady, but fierce as she says, "You're telling me this kid, who's got nothing, is a disruption to my class." Blake doesn't budge. "Kids like him don't fit here," he snaps, his words cold as the cracked linoleum floor. At Jefferson, rules reign supreme, and warmth is an afterthought if it exists at all. Sarah, with her soft blonde hair and patched sweater, stands tall despite her scuffed boots and clenched fists. She knows what it's like to grow up with less. It's not a burden to her. It's a badge of survival. Every morning, she tucks a single apple in her desk drawer, not for herself, but for any kid who needs it. Most days, it's Jack who quietly takes it. He's a skinny, silent fourth grader, his pants held up with twine, always fading into the background. Jack doesn't talk much, but he leaves Sarah little tokens of thanks, a worn pencil stub sharpened with care, once even a bruised apple she cradled like it was treasure. That afternoon, Blake calls her in. "You've been reported," he says, his tone clipped. Favoritism. Feeding a student, letting Jack stay late. Sarah doesn't flinch. "He's hungry," she says simply. Blake stands, looming over his desk. "This isn't a soup kitchen, Miss Ellis. It's a school. It should be both," she fires back. He slides a formal reprimand across the desk. "Next time, you're gone." That night, by the flicker of a candle, Sarah pours her heart into a letter to the district, pleading for better treatment of kids like Jack. She signs it, seals it, and hopes for change. The next morning, she places the letter on Blake's desk before the first bell. He snatches it up. "What's this?" he demands. "A letter to the district," she says, chin high. Blake reads it in silence, then rips it to shreds, his face like stone. "You don't speak for this school," he growls. "You don't challenge me." Sarah freezes, then turns and walks out, the hallway buzzing with whispers. Other teachers avoid her gaze. In her classroom, she opens her desk drawer, no pencil, no apple, just an empty ache. By the end of the day, a termination letter lands on her desk, the words "incompatible" and "effective" immediately burning into her. Alone in her classroom, rain clouds gathering outside, Sarah folds the letter with trembling hands and tucks it into her worn leather bag, the one she's carried since college. No one watches her leave, no goodbyes, just the echo of her boots on the linoleum as she steps into the Kentucky rain. She walks home through puddles, past the diner where she picks up weekend shifts, the library where she reads to kids, the gas station where Jack's mom sometimes lingers in silence. By the time she reaches the trailer she shares with her grandmother, Ruth, she's soaked to the bone. Ruth opens the door, worrying etched in her face. "They did it, didn't they?" Sarah nods, too drained to speak. Inside, at their tiny kitchen table, Ruth makes tea and takes her hand. "You're young, sweetheart," she says softly. "You can find a path that doesn't hurt so much." Sarah stares at the steam curling from her mug and whispers, "I was born to teach." The next morning, Sarah starts packing her books into boxes. She calls the diner for extra hours and thinks about leaving town, maybe Lexington, maybe farther, anywhere she won't have to face the sting of failure. But then, the local paper drops a bombshell. Teacher fired for feeding hungry student. There's a grainy photo of Sarah kneeling beside Jack, his face half hidden behind her. The article calls it a disputed case, detailing how she broke rules to show compassion. Some readers shrug and move on. Others whisper in grocery aisles. But one man, 60 miles away, reads it twice and folds the paper carefully. His name is Charles Cole, 34, headmaster of a small independent school called New Hope Academy. He believes in second chances and teachers who lead with their hearts. That evening, Charles sends Sarah an email. "Dear Miss Ellis," it begins. "I read about you in the Herald today. I don't need all the details. What I know is this. Any teacher who shares her lunch with a hungry kid, the kind I want at New Hope. If you're open to it, let's talk." Sarah finds the message the next morning, blinking at her screen. At first, she thinks it's a mistake, but the school's website is real, and the words feel genuine. She replies, cautious but hopeful. A few days later, they meet at a quiet cafe on the city's edge. Charles stands as she arrives, his navy sweater simple, his handshake warm. They talk for hours about kids, education, the things test scores can't measure. He never mentions the firing. He only asks, "What would you do with another chance?" And for the first time, Sarah lets herself believe she might get one. New Hope Academy is a world away from Jefferson. No sterile hallways or buzzing fluorescent lights. The school sits between two towering oaks, its weathered brick walls glowing in the spring sun. Windows are propped open, letting in fresh air. It's smaller than Sarah expected, more like a cozy house than an institution. Laughter spills from the classrooms as she steps inside, the air tinged with cinnamon and pencil shavings. A student-painted mural of hands reaching for a book page sung covers one wall, with gold letters beneath. "We learn by heart." Charles greets her in the hallway, coffee in hand, a clipboard under his arm. His smile is real, not the tight-lipped kind she's used to from principals. "Welcome to New Hope, Miss Ellis," he says. "Let's show you around." As they walk, Sarah notices the kids. They don't scurry or shrink away. They wave to Charles, who knows every name. Classrooms have beanbags and mismatched chairs, instead of rigid desks. Plants line the windowsills. Artwork covers the walls and shelves brim with dog-eared books. "This is a school," Sarah murmurs, half to herself. Charles grins. "We think so. A school without walls, not literally, but in spirit. We don't chase perfection here. Just teachers brave enough to care." They pause at her new classroom. Sarah steps inside, taking it all in. A scuffed whiteboard, a colorful rug, mismatched chairs, a big window opening to a garden. She sets her bag on the desk and exhales, the knot in her chest loosening for the first time in weeks. Her first day is quiet but alive. 12 students, ages 9 to 11, shuffle in, eyeing her with curiosity. There's a boy who taps his chair every few seconds, a girl who won't take off her winter hat, a tall kid with no backpack and downcast eyes. They're different from Jefferson's kids, but they watch her closely. Sarah starts with a story, reading from an old, cracked book. Her voice wavers at first, but as the kids lean in, eyes bright, she finds her rhythm. They laugh, ask questions. One even claps when she finishes. She writes their names on the board, asking each to share something they love. "Birds," says one. "Quiet," says another. A soft voice whispers, "My brother coming home." Sarah listens, really listens, crouching beside them instead of towering over. At lunch, Charles peeks in. Sarah's on the floor, tying a girl's shoelace, her smile gentle as she murmurs something that makes the girl beam. Later, as the kids pack up, Sarah sits at her desk, gazing out the window. Her eyes are tired but alive. In her drawer, there's an apple not hers, but a gift from a student. It's not perfect, just quietly left. Charles knocks lightly. "How was day one?" Sarah turns, her first real smile since Jefferson blooming across her face. "Like breathing again," she says. He nods, holding her gaze a moment longer. "Good. You belong here." She watches him go, then looks around her classroom's messy bulletin board, the worn rug, the scattered books. It's not perfect, but it's real. And so is she. We're picking up with Sarah, who's found a new home at New Hope Academy, a school that feels more like a family than an institution. But just when things are starting to feel right, a familiar face shows up and changes everything. It's a rainy Thursday morning, and Sarah's in her classroom, spreading vocabulary cards across the rug, when the receptionist taps on her door. "Miss Ellis, there's someone at the gate asking for you," she says, hesitating. "A boy. Says he knows you." Sarah's heart skips. A parent. No. The woman shakes her head. A boy. Sarah hurries outside, rain speckling her sweater, and there, under a too big, crooked umbrella, stands Jack. He's taller now, but those solemn eyes and skinny frame are unmistakable. His coat's frayed, his shoes worn, squishing in the puddles. Jack, Sarah whispers, dropping to her knees, rain soaking her hair. He stares, frozen, like he might bolt. Then, in a small voice, he asks, "Is this a safe school?" Sarah's throat tightens. She nods, tears prickling. "Yes, baby, it is." She reaches out, slow and gentle, and Jack steps forward, resting his head on her shoulder. He's trembling. "Have you eaten today?" she asks softly. He nods, but she knows he's lying. From the covered walkway, Charles watches quietly, his hand pressed to his chest like he's steadying something inside. He turns and slips back inside. In the cafeteria, Sarah sits Jack at a small table, setting a peanut butter sandwich, milk, and an apple in front of him. He eats slowly, barely making a sound. "I didn't know where you went after you left," he says, eyes on his plate. Sarah leans in. "What happened, Jack?" He shrugs. "We moved a lot. Mom was sick, then better, then worse. We're in a shelter now." Sarah swallows hard. "You live close to bus rides," he says. "I saw your name in a newspaper with this school." Her heart twists. "You came looking for me." Jack glances up. "You're the only one who ever looked at me like I mattered." Charles joins them, pulling up a chair with enrollment forms. His voice is warm, steady. "No uniforms here, Jack. No tests to prove your worth. Just effort, kindness, a little curiosity. Sound fair?" Jack nods, cautious. "We'll talk to your guardian later," Charles adds, "but for now, you're welcome here." Jack blinks. "You the principal?" "I suppose so," Charles says, smiling. "You like books?" Jack's eyes light up. "Love them," Charles grins. "Then I think you'll like it here." Over the next few weeks, Jack becomes a quiet part of Sarah's classroom. He's early every day, sometimes with a half-eaten granola bar, sometimes with just his notebook. Sarah keeps a muffin on her desk and a blanket in the reading corner. They disappear without a word. Charles watches from a distance during lunch, free period, seeing how Sarah never pushes Jack to talk, but gently draws him out. She gets him to draw, write stories, build bridges with wooden blocks. One day, Jack writes a story about a paper boat surviving a storm because someone whispered courage into its sails. Sarah hands it to Charles after class. "He's healing," she says softly. Charles nods. "So are you." The three of them fall into a quiet rhythm, Sarah with her steady presence, Jack with his fragile trust, Charles with his unwavering support. They read together on the classroom rug, passing books like treasures. They share sandwiches, laugh over comic strips. It's not called therapy, but it's healing, all the Samithro closeness, stillness, being seen. One afternoon, Jack hands Sarah a folded sketch. It's a woman with blonde hair holding a boy's hand outside a small school with big windows. Behind them, a man with kind eyes holds an umbrella over them both. Sarah looks at Jack, who gives a faint smile. Charles, passing by, pauses. "Good drawing," he says. Jack shrugs. "Just drew what I see." Charles catches Sarah's eye and smiles. The next morning, sunlight spills across the classroom rug, where Sarah and Charles sit with second graders for their weekly life skills lesson. Today's theme, kindness and family. Sarah holds up a poster covered in colorful handprints. "What makes a family?" she asks, her hair glowing in the light. "Love," says a girl with pigtails. "Hugs," a boy adds, arms flailing. "Someone who shares their cookies," another chimes, sparking giggles. Charles, cross-legged beside Sarah, smiles. Perfect answers. Families can be big, small, with grandparents, parents, or friends who feel like family. As Sarah passes out paper hearts for the kids to write on, a boy with a smudged nose, James, tilts his head. "Miss, are you and Mr. Charles married?" The room freezes, then erupts in squeals. Charles coughs, ears red. Sarah's cheeks flush, but she kneels to James' level. "No, sweetheart, We're not married. James blinks. But you laugh like my mom and dad. Sarah chuckles, her voice warm. That's because Mr. Charles is special. Love doesn't always mean marriage. It can mean listening, helping, caring, making sure no one's left behind. She looks at the kids. We're not husband and wife, but we're part of this big, messy, beautiful New Hope family. And we love it dearly. Charles watches her, his eyes soft with something deeper than admiration. The kids go back to writing on their heart snacks, holding hands, someone who comes back. After the lesson, as the kids head to recess, Sarah tidies her desk and finds a note tucked under her notebook. It smells faintly of cologne. Her breath catches as she opens it. I'm not your husband, it reads, but if I'm ever lucky enough to be your companion in the long run, it'd be the honor of my life. Sarah's fingers tremble. She glances at the door. Charles is gone, handling a call. She holds the note to her chest, sitting in the quiet. It's not loud or flashy, but it's everything she values: gentle, honest, brave. Later, when Charles passes by with files, their eyes meet. She smiles. He smiles back. No words, but the air between them shifts, tender and new. Sarah feels seen, chosen, like when she found Jack's bruised apple in her drawer all those years ago. But trouble's brewing. A Monday morning email from Victoria Langford, a big donor and parent, lands like a punch. It's polite but sharp, questioning the perceived personal relationship between Sarah and Charles, claiming it undermines the school's integrity. She threatens to pull her $30,000 in funding, scholarships, field trips, meals if it's not addressed. Sarah sits at her desk, the printed email in her lap, face pale. I don't want a scandal, she tells Charles, voice tight, as he shuts the door. The kids shouldn't suffer because of rumors. Charles crosses his arms. You've done nothing wrong. It's not about truth, she says. It's about what people believe. Charles shakes his head. She's twisting things to fit her story. That's not on you. Sarah looks out the window, where kids laugh in the garden. Maybe I should step back from the mentorship program, just for now. No, Charles says, firm. You're not hiding. I'd rather lose money than lose you. The week drags on. Whispers grow in the hallways. A few parents cancel meetings. A local blog stirs the pot, hinting at favoritism. Then comes the school board meeting in the multipurpose room, lit by soft, mismatched lights. Parents, staff, and locals fill folding chairs, eyes on Sarah and Charles. Victoria sits up front, her notes crisp, nails gleaming. Charles takes the stage, glancing at Sarah by the door, her heart pounding. He clears his throat. There's talk about impropriety here, about a relationship real or not hurting our school's image. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Let me be clear, he says, voice steady. Sarah Ellis is one of the most compassionate, professional teachers I've ever known. Her work at New Hope changes lives, including mine. Victoria's brow arches. I get the power of appearances, Charles continues, and the value of funding. But I won't trade integrity for comfort. I won't ask a good woman to shrink because someone misreads kindness. He looks straight at Victoria. If our vision doesn't suit you, thank you for your past support. We wish you well. Gasps fill the room. Victoria stands, lips tight, and walks out. Silence hangs. Then a single clap breaks it, followed by another, swelling into applause. After the meeting, Sarah finds Charles outside under a maple tree, twilight cooling the air. You didn't have to do that, she whispers. I did, he says, eyes soft. And I would again. The next week, envelopes start arriving, anonymous checks, notes from shopkeepers, a $20 bill from a former student's mom with a letter, for the woman who taught my son being poor isn't shameful. The funding gap closes fast, not just in dollars, but in loyalty, truth, and courage money can't buy. We're wrapping up Sarah's journey at New Hope Academy, where courage and kindness have already overcome so much. Now, we see how one boy's transformation ties it all together. Jack's no longer the shy kid with twine-tied pants. At 17, he's a senior at New Hope, taller, steadier, with a quiet confidence that draws people in. His notebooks burst with essays, sketches, and reflections. He still listens more than he talks, but when he speaks, everyone leans in. When the state's Department of Education calls for student speakers at a regional conference, Charles nominates Jack without a second thought. Jack hesitates. "I'm not someone people listen to," he says, shaking his head. Sarah smiles gently. "You have a story only you can tell. That's enough." The conference is in a hotel ballroom, packed with educators from dozens of schools. Jack steps to the podium in a borrowed blazer and his beat-up sneakers, the room falling silent. He takes a breath, spots Sarah and Charles in the crowd, and starts. "I wasn't supposed to be here," he says plainly. "Not just at this conference, but at any school where I felt safe, wanted, or seen." He pauses, letting the words settle. "At 10, I thought being invisible was safer than being noticed. I thought kindness was a trap. Hope something only other kids got." Jack's voice steadies. "Then a teacher gave me a sandwich and asked for nothing back. She let me stay late when I was scared to go home. She didn't call me broken, she just waited for me to speak. And when I did, she listened." He smiles faintly. "She and the man who runs my school built something rare, a place where you don't have to earn your worth, where love isn't conditional, where silence isn't mistaken for apathy." He looks at Sarah. "She didn't just pull me out of poverty. She showed me I deserved love, that I had value even when I had nothing to give." The room is still. Then applause builds, slow at first, then heartfelt. Back at New Hope, Sarah and Charles start a new tradition. Gratitude Day. Every student gets a blank card to write to someone who's changed their life. The cards are sweet thanks for sharing making math fun, being my safe place. Jack's card lands on Sarah's desk in a plain envelope. No name. Inside, his handwriting is clear. "You didn't just feed me. You gave me a reason to wake up. You showed me I mattered, that I was worth saving. You taught me to love by loving me first." Sarah reads it alone after class, her eyes brimming not with sadness, but with a deep, quiet gratitude. Charles finds her at the window, card in hand. "Jack," he asks. She nods, wordless. He stands beside her. No need for words, as daffodils bloom outside and kids laugh in the fading light. In that moment, Sarah reaches for Charles's hand as a secret, just real, held softly like everything that matters. The halls of New Hope hum with live sunlight through tall windows, artwork taped to walls, the scent of pencil shavings and old books. Today feels different, though. Jack stands before room to be, hands trembling as he unlocks a door. Inside, the sunlit room waits. He walks to the desk now and opens the drawer. Carefully, he places a polished red apple inside, its skin smooth, stem curved. It's not for a student, it's for her. The woman who once left apples for kids with nothing, who saw him when he was invisible. Charles leans in the doorway, arms crossed, watching the boy he first read about in a newspaper years ago. Jack's grown, but his eyes still hold that quiet strength. "First day," Charles says. Jack turns, nodding. "Feels like I've been heading here since I was 10. Charles smiles. Nervous, Jack exhales. Terrified. "That's how you know you're ready." They sit for a moment, the past humming between them. When the bell rings and footsteps echo, Jack stands. "I've got this," he says, trying to sound sure. Charles claps his shoulder. "You always did." Down the hall, Sarah greets students, her hair shorter now, silver strands catching the light. Her wedding ring glints as she hands out folders, her smile warm. She spots Jack in his doorway, pauses, and presses a hand to her heart. He nods, and she beams. Jack's first day as a teacher flows naturally. He reads aloud, answers questions, calms a nervous kid. It feels like he never left, like he belongs. That evening, the school hosts a ceremony for new teachers in the small auditorium, strung with lights and filled with laughter. Charles speaks briefly, then calls Jack to the stage. Jack steps up, nervous but steady, scanning the room. Charles at the side, Sarah in the front row. "I never thought I'd be here," he begins. "For a long time, I didn't think I'd be anywhere at all. At 10, I was lost, hungry, forgotten. But a teacher didn't turn away. She saw me, fed me, listened, stayed when no one else did. He looks at Sarah. She didn't just teach me to read. She taught me I mattered. Then too Charles. And another person stood by her when the world tried to tear her down. He showed me real leaders protect people, not just rules. Jack's voice grows strong. I'm here because a teacher didn't give up on me, and the headmaster didn't give up on her. The room falls silent, then erupts in applause, loud and warm. Later, as the crowd thins and twilight paints the windows gold, Charles finds Sarah at the back. They stand in the quiet glow. I never taught you anything, Charles says softly. Sarah leans into him, smiling. But you, he whispers, kissing her temple, taught me everything about the heart. They glance at Jack, laughing with students across the room. The apple still sits in his drawer, glowing quietly. New Hope feels more than a school, it's a promise kept. Thank you for joining us on this journey of love, resilience, and the power of compassion. Jack's story shows us one act of kindness can ripple through a lifetime. Sometimes, the greatest lessons aren't taught with chalk or textbooks, but with open hearts. If this moved you, imagine how many more stories are out there. Subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories and join a community that celebrates real-life miracles, quiet heroes, and moments that change everything. Hit that notification bell, drop a comment with your thoughts, and help us keep sharing stories that heal, inspire, and touch the soul. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay kind, stay hopeful, and never underestimate the power of a single apple in the right hands.